today. Okay, so the very first I would like to welcome all of you to the guest lecture on keynotes on 5G wireless technology. Okay, so our speaker is Mr. Sagar Somshekhar sir. So I will just give a brief introduction. So Mr. Sagar has about 10 years of experience in wireless communication, signal processing, RF and antennas domain, and with MTech in signal processing and communication from IIT Kanpur. He is a recipient of Excellence and Outstanding Performer of the Year at Samsung R&D Institute, India, Bangalore. He was also awarded with Samsung Citizen Award, which recognizes an individual for his or her contribution and excellence at work. He has many journals and patents published to his credit. He has worked at various companies like BEL, National Institutes, R&D, Bangalore, Samsung R&D Institute, India, Radisys India Private Limited. Students, he is currently positioned as 5G L1 architect at Nokia Solutions and Networks India Private Limited, where his domain of work is wireless communication and DSP. We have Mr. Lingam also from GE Healthcare accompanying him. Welcome you, sir.
Thank you.
Hello. Thanks for the kind introduction. So I hope we can start the presentation.
Yes, sir.
First of all, thanks for having me. I'm very excited to give this presentation to all of you. I hope you are also excited to hear this presentation. Am I right?
Yes, sir.
So I want to know a few things before I start. So what is the expectation out of this presentation? Can some of you tell? Some 2-3 people.
Students, you can interact with him.
I'm going to call out the names.
Yeah, let's have interactive session. So just whatever you felt that you would gain out of this presentation, you can just tell that. Okay, this is what I'm expecting out of this presentation. So it will help me to fine tune my presentation moving forward. So I will come to know what kind of information I should be giving to you. For that reason I'm asking. So you can tell me. The one from Gulf expectation of this presentation. Sorry? Anyone? Sorry?
Current trend in communication, like switching from 4G to 5G and how is it?
Okay, sure. Okay, fine. So, without wasting time, let me get started. So, today I will be talking about the keynotes on 5G wireless technology. Here I will talk concepts related to how we are evolving from 2G, 3G, 4G until 5G, and also some of the basic concepts related to wireless communication or any of your electronic subjects. Okay. So what do we learn today? So you guys had some expectation. So related to that, I will try to cover those concepts as well. But first and foremost topic which I will be covering is the big picture and end-to-end perspective. Then I will go to evolution from 2G till 4G, and I will also talk about what changed from 4G to 5G and what are the technologies that are introduced. Okay. Then I will talk about Cloud RAN, which is cloudification of 5G RAN. Then I will talk about the information related to wireless industry, what they are doing and what are the opportunities present there. Alright. Then I will talk about mind and energy management, which is not technical. Okay. Time permits, I will cover that. So, big picture, why do we need this? See, when I was in engineering, like you guys, one of the major drawback was I lacked the big picture. because whatever subject I am studying, right? So that subject I didn't have the picture like where it is used, which industries are using it, and how is it going to impact the people's life. So that big picture was not there, because of which, what was the problem? We are not able to appreciate the subject very well, and we are not able to visualize the concepts as well, correct? So if we understand the big picture, then we will be able to appreciate the subject very well. And big picture includes, what does big picture mean here? So when we are talking about wireless technology, end to end, we should be knowing what are the components that are required, how the signal is going on. Right? Being an electronics engineer, we should know how the signal travels, or how it is propagated, how the information is propagated from one end to another end. So, is it true only in case of your technical subject? So, in between, I will also be connecting the concepts to the real life as well. What I mean to say is, in your life, you want to do something in future, and you have your own goals. So, but do you really know the big picture? Like why you are doing it, for what purpose you are doing it, right? That will help you to fine tune your goal very well, right? So this big picture is required either in your technical as well as in your real life. So let's get started with the big picture. I have planned to write the diagrams and explain to you guys. So not much of a PPT I have got. I just wanted to have a different perspective over here. So what could be the elements, or what could be the modules that are included in 5G wireless technology? So at least you can tell some modules. Anyone? What is this? What is this? So we have mobile phones, correct? So then with mobile phones, if it has to work in a wireless technology, what else do you need? So antenna will be a part of your mobile phone. So one equipment is over. What is this? Cover is the layman term, but in technically what do we call base station? Correct. So this base station is connected to what? Yeah. In total, what do we call? So we can call it as core network, right? So whenever you are going to talk over mobile phone, signal goes from your mobile till the base station, and base station will also send some signal, right? The signal which is going from your mobile phone to the base station, that is called uplink signal, and the signal coming from base station to your mobile phone is called downlink signal. So at a very, very high level, this is the big picture. Okay, we have mobile phones, we have base stations, and we have core network. Now let us go a little bit deep into the mobile. So what is going to happen when you switch on the mobile phone? So first of all, let's say for your mobile phone to work, what has to be installed? The base station should be installed, correct? So let's say for example Jio or Airtel, so those operators would have already installed the base stations at various areas. So I would say this is already installed and this core network is also present. Now this base station would be transmitting the signal all the time. They are called as broadcasting signals. Okay. So whenever you switch on your mobile phone, immediately the signal coming from the base station would be received by your mobile phone. It will acquire all the configuration parameters and it will synchronize with the base station. And in turn, if there are some more synchronization required, then mobile will also be sending some sort of signals to the base station, and there will be a exchange of signal for about few seconds or few milliseconds, and your mobile will be connected to your base station. So your mobile would be connected to a base station which is nearby, which is close to it. Correct? Let's say, for example, you are moving from one area to another area, and there is a exchange of base station. Correct? So you are moving far away from the current base station, but you are entering the zone of the new base station. That time, what is going to happen? So all the information related to the particular mobile which is present in the current base station would be transferred to the another base station. That too we call it as handover. Okay, from one base station to another base station, all the information would be handed over. Now we will talk like your phone has been switched on and your phone is connected to the base station. Now let us say you are going to send some WhatsApp message, or you are going to speak over the mobile phone. So what happens? So whatever you are speaking is a voice signal, correct? So some people are already using the technology very well here, right? Okay, so we will be in a position to actually appreciate this subject very well. Why? We are already using this technology, correct? If you take some other subject like RF or microwaves, or in fact any other subject, you will not be using those subject concepts in day-to-day life. Maybe you will not appreciate very well, but you need to visualize in that during that time. But at least 5G or wireless communication, you should be in a position to appreciate, right? Because you are using every day. Right now also you are using. So whenever you speak, a voice signal will come out. Voice signal will be analog in nature, correct? And what is the bandwidth of voice signal? Basically, whatever you speak, that will be received by your mobile phone, and it will convert into electrical signal. So that electrical signal is again analog in nature. Can we process it directly? We cannot process it, because we know that we have many circuitry inside your mobile phone which will understand a different language. What is that language? What is the language understood by your computer? Sorry? Yeah. Tell me loudly, someone told the right answer. Binary? That's what your answer? So, okay, it's a binary language, ones and zeros, right? So your voice signal now converted into electrical signal. From electrical signal, we need to actually convert it into binary form, ones and zeros. So further, what concept are you applying from your electronics and communication? So there is a signal. First you have to do sampling, right? Here let us try to understand some basic concept. So we have some signal x of t, and that is an electrical signal which is analog in nature. First we need a digital signal. Okay. So what does digital mean? Digital signal mean? See, in x of t, I would say the signal is represented something like this, where if you take any one point in that signal, both your x-axis t will be a real quantity, correct? It can be a fraction or something, and also your amplitude will also be fraction. So that is your analog signal. Now once you do sampling, what do you get? Something like this. Here, what is the concept? What is your x-axis? X-axis become n. N is an integer, right? It is not allowed to have any fraction. So your x-axis is digitized, whereas your amplitude is still, it can be some fraction number, 0.86 or something like that. So your analog signal became digital signal. Still it is not in a binary form which is understood by your mobile phone, correct? We need to convert it into binary, we need to convert it into binary form. But here I want to ask one question. You are doing sampling, right? But and also you are sending a voice signal. Do you know what is the bandwidth of the voice signal? So if you are doing sampling, what should be our sampling frequency? Okay, let's do one thing. So since we are conducting a presentation on wireless technology, why can't we use wireless technology to find the answer? So can all of you open your mobile and try to figure out what is the bandwidth of your voice signal? Let us see who is going to answer this very quickly. This is also one kind of skill, right? To find the answer quickly from the internet. There is a vast information present in the internet, but you don't know which link to refer. What is the bandwidth? First question. Second question is, if you know the bandwidth, you can directly answer the sampling frequency. But still, you need some more information there apart from bandwidth to answer sampling frequency.
4 kilo
4 kilohertz. Is it the bandwidth or?
bandwidth. Sampling will be 2 times, so it will be 8 kilohertz.
Okay. So, actual the bandwidth is the signal ranges from 300 hertz to 3300 kilohertz. Okay. It's actually 3300 kilohertz, but the thing is, some filter roll-off would be considered. So from 3.3 kilohertz, they have taken it as 4 kilohertz, and 2 times the bandwidth, which is 8 kilohertz, would be the sampling frequency. Okay.
You
So-
can have your phones inside until sir gives you next question to research. Okay?
I can keep it, but you have to utilize it for the right purpose. Okay. So now comes another block which is called quantization. You would have studied this in your analog communication. So what does quantization do? Now your amplitude values were real numbers, correct? It can be fraction, but using this quantization, having a different levels of quantization and considering the certain number of bits, let's say for example 3 bits, you can have a different bits. Say for example 0.86 will be converted into, I am just giving example, 101 if it is a 3 bit. So like that, each and every point can be converted into bits. So from this, basically we are going to get an array of ones and zeros. Okay. So now we have an array of ones and zeros. What will happen next? So it will go to, I will just say N2 plus layer. Okay. In your OS model, you would have come to know, right? There are different layers, layer 1, layer 2, and up to 7 layers, things like that. So I would say that till upper layer, till layer 2, I will call it as layer 2 plus layer, and then I will say layer 1. So even till this point we will be having 1010 only, bits only. And what happens in L1 layer? L1 layer we have many blocks, right? Here you would have studied in your digital communication subject. In digital communication subject, if you see the block diagram, then one of the blocks present is modulation. So what does modulation do? Your modulation, okay, inside this L1 I will just say there is a modulation block. Let us see, whether we can go in deep with respect to L1 layer or not. But let's say modulation will take input as a bits and it will give output as a INQ value, correct? Or your imaginary quantity, I plus JQ. So we call it as IQ sample. One point is nothing but the IQ sample. So now this IQ sample will be your, what is it? It will be a real number, correct? So let's say modulation. I will just take QPSK. So QPSK will take how many bits as an input? 2 bits. Let's say this is 0 0. So if I am getting 1 0, then this point would be selected. Your I value will be, okay, your I value will be positive. Then your Q value will be negative. So now this I and Q will be transmitted over the air. How is it transmitted over the air? So we have I and we have Q. So both of them has to be transmitted. But this I and Q values currently if we go back, we had bits ones and zeros, and that we have converted into I and Q. That I and Q will be again we are moving back to the digital signal. Okay, not the binary form but the digital signal. Now from the digital signal how I can represent? It is a function of n curve, I of n, or you can say Q of n. Now we will have oscillator, and for I we will multiply it by cos omega ct, and for Q we will multiply it with sin omega ct, and we will add both of them, and we are transmitting. Okay, why do we need cos omega ct? Omega ct, the moment I said, I told that there is a local oscillator, this is the local oscillator, and it has got a center frequency fc, correct? But why do we need fc? Okay, before that, cos omega ct is what kind of signal? This is an analog signal, correct? And we usually call it as a carrier signal. So we were in digital signal. I did not convert it into analog signal, but I am trying to multiply it with another analog signal which is not correct. So what should we have? Here your digital signal should be converted into analog signal, so there will be digital to analog converter. Okay. So now at the output of analog converter, your Q of n became Q of t, analog signal, and this analog signal will be multiplied with sin omega ct, and the I component also will be multiplied with cos omega ct. We are adding together. But did you observe one thing here, that your modulation output will give you a complex number, but we are not dealing with the complex number. So that complex number is for our analysis purpose only, for our mathematical analysis purpose only. But in real time, we will have only analog signal and also real signal, correct? Whatever we transmit over the air, it will be analog and real. And also note that in real there won't be anything like negative frequencies. Everything will be positive frequency, but whatever negative frequency which we are referring, that is all for our analysis purpose or for our mathematical model only. So that's why I separated out I and Q component separately, and there is no J added to that. And each of these I and Q component I am multiplying with another analog signal that is having a center frequency Fc. So this Q of t is there, right? Q of t we would have transmitted it just like that. But why we had to multiply it with sin omega ct? So Q of t is a baseband signal. See, whatever we are analyzing in layer 1, that is all baseband signal. What do you mean by baseband signal? Baseband signal will have a center frequency 0. Correct? If it has a center frequency 0, if we want to transmit over the air, we should have a very big antenna, correct? Because center frequency is small, so your antenna size will be big. That is another basic concept which we all know. So, in most of the communication systems, to make the antenna size smaller, we will be multiplying the actual information with carrier frequency, and that carrier frequency we will be choosing a very high value. High value means what high value? Okay, what is the value? Can someone give an example? So you have your 4G technology in your hand, you can use that. Okay, I will give you one more question, that is, what is the center frequency used by, let's say, Airtel? Can someone search? Do you know already? If you know, can you tell? Going to get the answer very quickly. Let's see. Sorry. Even if it is wrong, okay, it's okay. You can tell. Did you get? Okay. Okay, one of the center frequencies is what it uses is 900 megahertz, and there is another center frequency that is around 1.95 or 1950 megahertz. Okay, so from center frequency 0 we are moving to those 900 megahertz. 900 megahertz is your center frequency. Now what has happened? What has happened with that center frequency? Your antenna size became very small. With that antenna size, you were able to transmit the signal. Okay? So, before you are going to transmit, what are the other things that would be done here? So now we have a carrier which is carrying the signal, correct? So, okay, I will give the picture over here. What has happened is, your baseband signal was something like this. Okay, this is in the frequency domain. So this is frequency f is equal to 0. It has got some amplitude here. So this was your information. So from here we did a up conversion, correct? With cos omega ct, we have moved the same signal to 900 megahertz. So this center frequency is actually carrying the signal, that's why we call it as carrier frequency. And since this is a RF signal now, from the output of that we will use what is called as power amplifier to boost the signal. Power amplifier, we will increase the power levels so that it can travel longer distance. But you cannot boost it to an extent where it will create a problem to the environment and to the human beings and all. So there will be a permissible limit allowed by the approving agencies or government. They will set the limits. So within that limit only you need to increase your power levels and you need to transmit. So after power amplifiers, there will be some RF components, okay, some circulators or isolators and things like that. And then finally, if you have multiple antennas, you have to use what you call as power dividers, okay. And finally, you will have antenna. So RF signal will come out of the antenna. Okay, now what did we understand? So from in the end-to-end perspective, just in a mobile phone, we just understood like if you want to talk something, how your voice signal converted into electrical signal from that digital form, and how it entered various layers, and it entered L1 layer. I separated here L1 layer basically why? Because whatever the subjects you guys are studying in as a part of electronics, majority of the subjects fall in that L1 layer. So I separated it out, okay. And from L1 layer, we again L1 layer gave us the IQ sample, which is again a digital signal. From digital signal, we converted into analog signal. Then we applied carrier, and then power amplifier and via antenna. Got it? So this much, if you are understanding the subject, this much at the overview level, if you have knowledge, then you will be able to connect the concepts very well. Okay. Now what happens at the base station? When the signal is going to the base station, right? What happens? I needn't have to tell what is going to happen, because at the receiver side, most of the blocks are just the reverse operation of what we did in the transmitter. Correct? There would be some extra blocks, but for now you needn't have to worry about that. But you can think that it is almost the reverse block of what we applied over here. Then what about there was one more component, right? So now we covered mobile, now we covered tower, base station. I just mentioned this reverse component, and there was one more component which was core network. See, core network is the place where the information of all the UVs will be present there, right? There will be many modules present there. I will not go to that core network, but I just want to tell few sentences about it. That core network is the place where your IP will be get assigned to your mobile phone. From your core network only it will get assigned, and it will get assigned in real time. That's why it is difficult to hack the mobile phone. That is one of the security. Okay. There are many other securities introduced at various layers. Now, in the core network, from generation to generation, what are those generations? Like 2G, 3G, 4G. You would have studied in your subject wireless communication in one of the chapters, like how these components inside your core network is getting modified, right? So why are they getting modified? One of the reasons is to reduce the cost. Another one is to make the network more flexible, and to reduce the components as much as possible, and so to make it more compact. Right? So I will not go to the details like what and all got changed in the core network. I will mainly focus on the layer 1 because that is where our main subjects are lying. Correct? So with this, we are done with end-to-end perspectives and the big picture. If you have any questions here at this moment, you can take some 20-30 minutes time to recall whatever I have told, or if you want to ask some questions here.
Where students can make use of the projects.
Okay, I will cover that.
At the channel level or at the signal level, certain problem statements wherever they can work. There is the scope of working, especially in problem.
Okay, I cannot give the exact problem statement, but I
At least the areas where they can target and work.
Currently, people are working in your R&D domain. Mine, say in your domain, in your company, currently R&D is working on which of the area? I mean, channel characteristics or MIMO transmission reception. Not exact problem statement we want, but the core focus currently in UK is on hardware, software, or some in between.
no, it will be from end to end. They cannot focus only one end. So, but there will be different groups. So one group will be in China, one group will be in Europe, one group will be in India, US. So different area will focus on
So
different
you are working in
physically. Okay, without wasting much time, there are a lot of things to explain. So if you have any questions, you can note down and you can ask me at the end as well. Okay, we will move to how we are evolving from 2G till 4G. Okay. So I have got a question that I should be giving some areas where there is a research potential, where you guys can do some sort of research or project and things like that. I will tell you all those things where and all there is a scope. But really, if you want to contribute to the research, then you should be very good at basics first and foremost thing, and you should be adding that big picture. Then only you will be able to make it. So that is exactly what I would be covering in this presentation. So at the end, I have kept one topic right related to opportunities and what's going in the industry. So there I will talk all these things. All right. So now from 2G till 4G. Why are we moving from generation to generation? One of the reasons is data rate, right? See, nowadays, if you see, even a vegetable seller is having mobile, and he also wants to use mobile phone. He also wants to use data. So, if you want to give a data service to so many users, then what is going to happen? So, for those users, means you need to increase your data rate. So first of all, we all know what is data rate. So data rate is nothing but your bits per second. Per second, how many bits you are going to transmit. So the main one of the goals. I will not talk about the other goals, but one of the goals is to increase the bits. So in what all ways we can increase the bits? What are the ways? One is we can increase the bandwidth cut. We can increase the bandwidth. So first let us talk about only increasing the bandwidth. Then we will try to see how other things are playing into role. First I want to give the basic concept again. Let's say for example if you are transmitting a signal of certain bandwidth, I will say BW. What will be your symbol time? What is symbol time? So let's say this is the symbol time. So this is in frequency domain, this is in time domain. Symbol time is the duration over which the signal will come out of your mobile phone. Okay? If you are using a certain bandwidth, then for that duration one symbol will be coming out of your mobile phone. Okay, you can think something like that. And what can be that duration? Let's say first we will talk about 2G, right? 2G, the bandwidth which we use is around 200 kilohertz. So it's actually very less bandwidth. We will see to what extent we are going in 5G. So 200 kilohertz is the bandwidth. So if it is 200 kilohertz, what's your TS? Symbol time. What is the relation? 1 by bandwidth, correct? So 1 by 200 kilohertz. What is the, okay, 5 microseconds. So your symbol time is just 5 microseconds. So if you are using 2G mobile and let's say if you want to transmit one IQ sample or one signal, then in a matter of 5 microseconds, one symbol is sent. Like in the next 5 microseconds, another symbol is sent. Okay? But 200 kilohertz, is it a good bandwidth or less bandwidth? See, 200 kilohertz means what will be the data rate? Let's say it's equivalent to bandwidth only for now. Okay, I will not get into the calculations. So your data rate for this 200 kilohertz, I would say 200 kbps. 200 kbps is your data rate. So this data rate is for one user. Okay, if we want to divide it for many users, then this 200 kilohertz, let's say there are 10 users, then 200 kilohertz will be divided by 10, then it will become 20 kilohertz. Nowadays, do you accept if your operator is giving 20 kilohertz speed to you? 20 kbps they will give. What will you do? You will just throw it. You want a download speed of in terms of Mbps, correct? So in case of this 2G, this is the problem. Okay, but I said we need more data rates. What can we do now? Okay, so the immediate answer could be I can increase the bandwidth, correct? So let's say I will try to increase the bandwidth. For example, from 200 kilohertz, I will say 1 megahertz. So if you want to increase to 1 megahertz, so what is your TS? TS is equal to 1, so it will become 1 microsecond. Earlier your TS was 5 microseconds, now it became 1 microsecond. So with this there is a problem in your wireless communication. What is the problem? That is what it is called as multipath fading. That's a beautiful concept. I will just give you a glimpse of it. You will be able to appreciate it very well. Okay. See, this is your tower, and let's say this is your user. Whenever there is a wireless channel, what happens? The signal coming out of your antenna goes in many directions, right? Okay, it will go somewhere else, it will get diffraction, everything will happen, and it will finally reach here. You transmitted only one symbol, okay? I will just say that you transmitted only this one symbol of duration TS. But over the air, it has got split into many signals, and it has traveled many directions, and it is reaching your mobile phone. Now, the one which is actually directly going to the mobile, that will go in TS duration only. Let's say the delay is 0 for that one, and it is going with the duration TS. What happens to the, let's say this one? What happens to that one? It has got some delay, right? I will say that delay is tau d. So it will reach with some delay, and it becomes something like this. Okay, what is the problem with this? The problem is that, see here, first symbol you are transmitted. Immediately in this link, there is a second signal also coming, right? Second signal is coming, but the delayed version of first signal is still coming little late, and if you see, it is exactly almost overlapping with the first symbol. Now there is a inter-symbol interference at the receiver side. There is a, when the second signal is received, at the same time even the first signal, the delayed version of first signal is also received. This is what is called as multipath fading or multipath effects. Did you appreciate this one? Have you ever tried to visualize in this direction? Typically, what is the value of this tau d? There are many lab experiments. Let's say, for example, I will say some 5 microseconds. Okay? But what was our TS? Do you remember? 1 microsecond. 1 microsecond, one sample is sent out, but there is a delay of 5, which means it will overlap with the 5 other symbols. So there is a huge inter-symbol interference. What did we understand from this? The moment you increase the bandwidth, your symbol time get reduced, and with the reduced symbol time, you are seeing that because of delay in the multipath, so many symbols are getting inter-symbol interference. So that's why in 2G they were not able to increase the bandwidth. They faced a lot of problems. Okay, this is one of the problems why they were not able to increase the bandwidth. Okay, so now I completed the concept with respect to bandwidth. Correct? From 2G, in 2G I just explained. Okay, with respect to bandwidth, what was the data rate? If we increase the bandwidth, what are the effects that we observe and why we were not able to increase? Let us try to see other disadvantages with respect to 2G and what triggered to move to 3G and all. This also I think you will be in a position to appreciate it. So in case of 2G, one of the good concept used is TDMA, time division multiplexing. What does it mean? Actually here there is one important concept which you need to understand. I will try to explain it at the end if I have time. Okay. For now, I will give the just overview of it, which is multiple access. This is what is called time division multiple access. Right? Whenever there is a multiple access, which means that the signal is corresponding to the multiple users. Okay, so we had a base station and we had let's say for now let's say 2 units only to keep the concept simple. This is another strategy which you should be using while you are understanding the concept. Whenever they say n number of units, you shrink it to just 2 units and try to understand what's happening. Okay, so this base station has to send the signal to these 2 units. In case of TDMA, what happens? So I said TS, we can transmit only one symbol. Okay, and now if that one symbol might corresponds to UV number 1. UV is user equipment, which is a mobile. Okay, UV number 1. Then if I transmit the information, let's say this is information x1, this is information x2. If I transmit both x1 and x2 at the same time, what's happening? There will be an interference, right? At the same time, you cannot have 2 signals. So you need to at least achieve some kind of orthogonality. How do you achieve here? You are transmitting the x2 in another time instant. So in the next time instant, you are transmitting the signal which is intended for the other user. Okay. So x1 is transmitted here, x2 is transmitted here. Afterwards, again x1 can be transmitted to the UV number 1. So what has happened here? Here basically the problem here is that at the same time you are not able to serve to the multiple UVs at a time. Okay, let's say you are using you are one user and you are one user. Then if base station, what does it do? For some time it will give signal to you, then it will stop, then it will give signal to you and it will stop and then it will extend. What is going to happen with that? I don't think that you guys face that problem. Very rarely you guys would have faced that problem, but you guys know that concept that is called as buffering, correct? Your video is getting buffered. Why is it? Because you are not given signal all the time. You are given some time, then you are asked to wait. Okay, then other users are also given, then you will be given signal again. Nowadays in 4G we are not seeing that problem much, correct? Very rarely we will see during Friday night or something. Okay, IT companies are also over. Weekend mindset came into picture. Everyone tries to use, or for example, let's say cricket or football is going on, then everyone tries to access, and so many users are connected to the base station. Then you will see some sort of buffering, but rarely it happens, correct? And even then, you guys want to have a non-stop video streaming, correct? Even that is also sometimes irritating. Like, hey, the very important match is going on. Even if it stuck for 1 second, you are like, how do you feel? Very bad, right? So this is another disadvantage. Users are not actually being able to serve at the same time. You guys clear with this concept? Two things I explained. One is with respect to bandwidth. They try to increase the bandwidth, but they face some problems. And the second one is with the TDMA concept, they are not able to serve the multiple users. Okay, with these two things, they wanted to move to 3G. Any questions here? Do you have any questions? Okay, let's move on. Okay, now we are in 3G. Okay, so what is the concept used in 3G? 3G directly they are telling the technology name itself, that is CDMA. Okay, here code division, multiple access. Okay, so earlier the multiple users are divided with respect to time. Here multiple users are divided with respect to certain code. What is the benefit that it is bringing? So all the disadvantages in 2G should be covered over here, right? Now, one thing. Okay, first we will talk about serving multiple users at the same time. So this is one simple time, correct? So here in CDMA, what do we do? Let's say user 1 is there, user 1 data. We are doing some operation with the PN sequence number 1, and user 2 we are doing the operation with the PN sequence 2. These two sequences are orthogonal to each other. With this, what can we do? I mean, what is it saying? Since when we multiply PN sequence 1, PN sequence 2, they are orthogonal to each other, can we combine them? Because they are orthogonal to each other, right? So we can easily separate them out. So since orthogonality is achieved with respect to some sort of code, we can combine them and we can transmit at the same time. So in the same TS symbol time, UV1 is transmitted and at the same time UV2 is also transmitted. Now you are getting the point? Like how multiple users are served here. Okay, can you think of some examples with respect to PN sequences or orthogonal sequences? I will give one simple example, but you can think for a larger number as well. Let's say for 2, 1, 1, right? 1 minus 1. Both of them are orthogonal to each other. How do you verify orthogonality? You take this conjugate of this, conjugate Hermitian, and if you see, it should be giving 0, correct? Okay, what is the next concept? One, I mentioned that okay, multiple users serving at the same time is solved here. What is the other? Increasing the bandwidth, right? See here, from 200 kilowatts. Earlier we were in 200 kbps. Here we were able to increase up to 1 to 5 megahertz bandwidth. Okay, usually I think 3.84 megahertz or something like that. So, but the bandwidth is in terms of megahertz. Now we have moved to megahertz. This increase in bandwidth was possible because they found out a very good receiver. Do you know what is that receiver? Famous receiver in CDMA. I gave the first letter. I think that is there in your subject, I believe, I am not sure. But rake receiver is the one. With this, what is happening? Okay. So here I explained about the multipaths, right? So if you increase the bandwidth, your simple time reduces. With that, I was telling that you will have this interference, and because of which this interference, and because of which you are not able to increase. But in case of CDMA, even if you increase the bandwidth, the property of the PN sequence used was such a way that we, with the help of that rake receiver, we are able to retrieve back the signal. Basically, we were able to eliminate this intersymbol interference. So we were able to increase the bandwidth as well. So bandwidth also got increased. Your users also got served at the same time. What else is required? But did we really increase the bandwidth to a greater extent? No, right? Again, it is 1 to 5 Mbps. Again, 1 to 5, let's say 5 maximum only, 5 Mbps. And 5 Mbps, if we are giving that 5 Mbps to, let's say, again 10 people, 5 Mbps divided by 10, how much is it? 500 kilowatts. Still we are in kilowatts only. Still we didn't enter into Mbps per user. We are still in the kilowatts only. So, but you can ask one question here, like why only 5 megahertz? Why can't we go beyond that? See, if you want to go beyond that, then you need a much larger PN sequence. This PN sequence length should be much larger. And what is happening is somewhere in the network, whatever they came up, if we try to use more and more users, your quality of service was getting reduced. So it was working very well for certain number of users. For example, let's say 30 users, up to 60 users, it was working very well. But if you try to add more and more users, somewhere the quality of service was getting reduced. And this, because of which, what is the problem? You cannot increase your PN sequence further, or you cannot increase your number of users further, which means, in simple terms, it's not scalable. You cannot scale it further. So is it a good technology again? That time it was a good technology, a limited number of users, so okay, fine. Nowadays, even your vegetable seller is also using mobile phone and what not. You guys might be adding to mobile phones also. So you need more and more this one. But here there is one important thing, like I think ma'am was telling related to the research and all. Okay. So then, how did this concept of CDMA came into picture? Who invented CDMA? Can you guys use your mobile phone and tell? Or which company invented? No. Okay, which company invented the CDMA technology? Sorry? Okay, Qualcomm. Have you heard about Qualcomm? Right? So what did they do? They did a very breakthrough in that technology. So 2G, they knew that they had a problem with 2G. They wanted to move to 3G, and Qualcomm invented 3G technology. And what was the first thing they did? If you invent something, what do? Huh? Sorry? Testing. No, before that. Okay, testing and all you have done. Okay, you are saying it's working. Sorry? No, design everything is over. Invented, design everything over. Testing also done. Prototype is ready. Copyrights. You are going to apply for patent. That was the first thing did by Qualcomm. They applied for patent, and patent was approved. And what else? If patent was approved and if everyone wants to use that one, they have to pay the money to the company and they have to get it. So in a span of just 1 decade, the company went from just a few $1 million to $1 billion company. Okay, what is the current revenue? Can you also search this? Qualcomm. Sorry? What is the revenue of Qualcomm now? Sorry? What it? Okay. 23.5? Okay. As of 2020. As of 2020, it was $23.5 billion. So now you are getting the picture, right? Like if you invent what all things you can do, and like how you can apply patent, how you can sell that patent to other people, and how you will be benefited out of it. But for that you also need a certain infrastructure, right? It's not so easy that you can invent some things like that. That was a very big innovation, I can tell. Okay, they needed it requires lot of infrastructure, lot of research from past 5 years, 10 years. Continuously they are working to see. They would have tried many experiments, and finally they would have come up with this concept. Okay. So with this, we will see, like, from here how did we move to 4G. Okay, 4G. So what was the problem with 3G? One thing is it's not scalable. That was the main reason. It's scalable in terms of two things. One is you are not able to increase the bandwidth, and second one is you are also not able to serve many number of users at the same time. Only limited number of users you can serve. Okay, up to 30 users, 60 users. So behind that, your quality of service was getting reduced. What was the concept used in 4G? OFDMA. See, in case of OFDMA, they went from just 5 Mbps. Okay, they went to 5 Mbps, but later on, with many other technologies, many other enhancements, I can say, enhancements, they were able to reach up to 400 Mbps. Okay, here, what did they do? See, we know this one, right? We know this one, TS. In the same time, we cannot get the orthogonality. But in 3G, we got orthogonality with respect to core. Can we get orthogonality in terms of frequency? See, time is explored and done, and the code with respect to core it is done. Okay. What about with respect to frequency? That is not explored and that was brought in. So with respect to frequency, they started experimenting. Okay. So what I would say is they increased 20 megahertz, right? Now what happened to your TS? What's your TS? 1 by 2 is 0.5, 0.05 microseconds. See, but your TS became much smaller here. Okay, definitely here, and I was telling that your timing delay is around the 5 microseconds. So 5 microseconds and symbol time is 0.05 microseconds. What is going to happen? Around 100 symbols will be in interference, correct? Huge inter-symbol interference. So they thought of dividing this bandwidth to a smaller bandwidths. What do we call as subbands? Or in terms of center frequency, they started calling it as subcarrier. So they started dividing it something like this. What was the subband frequency they used? 15 kilohertz. Okay, so let's say instead of 18, instead of 20, I will take 18 megahertz. So 18 megahertz divided by 15 kilohertz. What is the number? 1200. So 1200 bands are created within that 20 megahertz band, and these subbands, a portion of it we can assign to different users. And the one more advantage is that it can be easily scalable. Okay, there were some restrictions somewhere else, but definitely it was known that if you remove those restrictions, it can be easily scalable. So 1200 means how many users we can support? Let's say if you divide 1200 bands, let's say per user you will assign some 20, let's say 25. How much it would be? From 40, 60 users you can, right? But what is the advantage? Okay, you are able to serve more users at the same time, and also you are able to increase the bandwidth. If you are able to increase the bandwidth per user, you can do more throughput. Right? See here I mentioned we went up till 20 megahertz, 20 Mbps. Again, as we compared, we divided by 10. So 2 Mbps. Already per user we are reaching 2 Mbps. And with some enhancements, I mentioned that we went up till 400 Mbps. So 400 divided by again 10, 40 Mbps. Are you not getting 40 Mbps? Okay, 40 Mbps is a little bit, depends on number of users, so many factors. But at least you would be, how much maximum we have seen while downloading. Okay, you cannot use Wi-Fi and all. Wi-Fi is again, that's a different technology. In your mobile phone, do you know how to verify your download speed in your mobile phone? Okay, how much speed you have seen maximum? 3 Mbps? Okay, in terms of few Mbps you have already seen, right? With that you are already experiencing sufficient speed, sufficient faster downloads and things like that. Now let us talk about okay, here we spoke two things. One is we can serve more users, it is scalable, and we were also able to increase the bandwidth. What about multi-path, right? See, the moment we divided into 15 kilohertz, what has happened to your? This is now your subband bandwidth. So what is your TS? This TS got modified. Okay, what's your TS? So 1 by 15 kilohertz, right? It will be somewhere around 66.67 microseconds. So it became something like this, smaller bandwidth, but you are transmitting for a larger duration. Up till 66.67 microsecond, you will be able to transmit only one symbol. But that is for a small bandwidth. But you have the parallel bandwidths also, right? Because you divided frequency. So now, at the same time, in a different band, you are transmitting to another symbol. So you are transmitting another symbol. Up to how much did we transmit? 1200, right? So earlier, in 1 TS, you were able to transmit only one. Now, with this, with 1 TS, you are able to transmit 1200. And this is 66.67 microseconds, and your timing delay. What was your timing delay? 5 microseconds. So now let us come to that diagram. So this is very nice to visualize or appreciate the concept. So one symbol, as let's say one symbol is TS, which is 66.67 microseconds. Now second symbol is coming in somewhere here, but there is a delayed version. Here is the delayed version. I am drawing the delayed version here. Delayed version maximum, I was telling, it will delay by 5 microseconds. So only a small portion is having the interference, correct? Earlier how much? 100 symbols, 20 symbols, 5 symbols were having the interference. But here it was affecting only the adjacent symbol, and then too only a small portion of symbol is affected. Even your multipath effects also got reduced. Even this is also completely removed by some concept, but I am not going to that one. And that concept is called cyclic prefix addition. Just I am mentioning here. If you study, then you will get to know. Okay. Now, is it clear for you guys? How did we move from 2G to 3G, 3G to 4G, and what were the requirements? What were the challenges, advantages, disadvantages? Any questions here? Before we move to the other concept, do you have any questions? Anything to ask?
You have, I think, a topic in your first module itself, right? Generation where you are studying. Right? So we're talking about that. No doubt.
Wasting much time, because one of the interesting topic that you guys might be looking for is related to job opportunities, what industry is doing, and research it out. So to get into that much faster, we try to finish 4G to 5G, okay, but with the relevant basic concepts, okay. So what changed in 5G? There were many technologies introduced here, and I will try to explain these things from the base level, so that you will come to know like why these technologies were introduced here, what was the requirement. Got it? 5G actually it is bringing many services. Okay, mainly three services. And one of the services is broadband. Broadband is what you are using in your mobile phone. Basically, that targets to increase the data rate. And from 2G to 3G and all, we are speaking about that only, that we want to increase the data rate. So now let us see in case of 4G to 5G, I want to increase the data rate. Okay, what is the first thing that I mentioned in order to increase the data? What should we do? Sorry? Can you tell a little louder? What do we need to do? Increase bandwidth, right? So, can we increase bandwidth? What is happening is, there is a spectrum. So, already one of the member has told that the center frequency is 900 megahertz. So, like that we have even 1.95 gigahertz also center frequency. So, what are all these things? You might have heard about 2G scam and all, right? It was about, selling this spectrum to the companies, Airtel, Vodafone or something like that. So, in the entire band, they will tell that, okay, Airtel, you take this center frequency 900 megahertz. Okay, if someone wants 900 megahertz, Airtel will say, okay, I will pay this much. Then Vodafone will say, I will pay this much, and the auction will go on. And whoever pays more, that particular center frequency will be given to them. Now, that in this area, I already mentioned that we have used 20 megahertz bandwidth. Now there are many vendors. Jio is there, Airtel, Vodafone, Idea. So all these are sold out already, and there is no free space there. Got it? And in fact, let's say up to 18 gigahertz, there is not much free space available. Spectrum is completely filled up by many companies. Some military applications are also there. So what is the next? As an electronics engineer, what would you propose? Okay, can someone answer? As an electronics engineer, what would you propose in this case? What would you propose? I will say that why are we dealing with okay, you are telling that till 6 gigahertz it is completely filled, right? Okay, in fact it is filled till 18 gigahertz. Hey, you can go ahead and explore the higher frequencies. Why can't we do it to 27 gigahertz? Why can't we do it 64 gigahertz? So that is what exactly proposed in case of 5G. Who will propose all these things? Companies only. Because they want to do business, right? They would have done some experiments, they would have done some research at that higher frequency. They will say, okay, I want to use this center frequency. They will propose, and there will be an entity where many other companies will assemble, and they will decide, okay, what should be approved, what we cannot approve, and things like that. So, center frequency is now shifting in case of 5G. Your center frequency will be somewhere around 27 gigahertz or somewhere around 64 gigahertz. So what are the advantages? What are the disadvantages? Someone proposed like this. Now here there is a lot of bandwidth available. So you might be hearing about the news also, right? That 5G spectrum auction is yet to come. It will be done so and so months, something like that. Have you heard this one in the news? Has anyone heard? At least now you are studying this subject now. If there is a news like that, we will be attentive. Okay, let's see what's happening there. But what is the bandwidth that we are looking? Okay, so we were at 20 megahertz in case of 4G. In case of 5G, what is the bandwidth that we are looking for? So we are looking somewhere, okay, there is 30, 40, 50, 60 megahertz or so. but more frequently 100 megahertz, and they are also thinking of 400 megahertz. Can you imagine 400 megahertz? Okay, divided by 10, 40 Mbps per user. 40 Mbps is much faster. You can download within a minute. You can download a movie. So now you got it. I want to increase the bandwidth. So what was the problem? Why I went for higher frequency? Now so if I am going to higher frequency, what is the technology that is bringing that? In this, what is the technology that is bringing that high frequency? Millimeter wave. Why it is called millimeter wave? So 64 gigahertz, right? Millimeter wave is spoken in terms of your wavelength. So for that frequency 64 gigahertz, if you take the wavelength calculation, it will come in the order of millimeter. So it is called as millimeter wave. So we are in millimeter waves. So the moment we go to millimeter wave, what are the disadvantages? You know about path loss, right? Path loss is directly related to frequency. If you increase your frequency, your path loss also increases. So you increase your center frequency. So earlier, from the base station, okay, there was an UV. You were forming a beam something like this, but this was, let's say, 1 gigahertz. Now if you form a beam with 64 gigahertz, it will travel only this much distance. It will not travel further. It is getting attenuated much faster. And again, there is a nice way to visualize like why high frequency signals are getting attenuated in the air, what is the reason and all. We'll see, like I am not sure whether I can give that concept to you guys or not. Now you got it right, but now you want to increase this range. If you want to increase this range, what are the concepts that we need to incorporate? So, have you studied this antennas and propagation subject? Is it over? Over? Running. So, in antennas and propagation, you know, right, that there is one antenna. Antenna, if a signal is transmitting, it corresponds to certain beam, RF beam like this. But the same thing, if you had multiple antennas, which is called as array of antennas, what is going to happen? Each of them will have beam, but the resultant beam will be traveling longer distance, but it will have a lesser beam rate. Okay, what I need to say here is that, let's go back to the previous diagram. In the previous diagram, the 64 gigahertz signal traveled only certain distance. If you want to increase the distance further, you had multiple antennas here. Okay, the moment you had the multiple antennas, your signal, you were able to transmit longer distance, and your width also decreased. Okay, here I can give one very good analogy. What is that analogy? You think of air balloon. So you tie that balloon and then you have filled it with air. So it is forming something like one beam, right? Antenna beam. Now you take the tip and you enlarge it. What is happening? It will become lengthy, but the breadth decreases. Similarly, if you had multiple antennas, your antenna beam shrinks in terms of beam width, but it increases its directivity or it increases its gain, or in other terms it can travel longer distance. Okay. So what is this technology called? Okay, phased array antennas, array of antennas forming a beam and things like that. So this this calls for analog beamforming. This is called as analog beamforming. You are doing some sort of beamforming. Sorry. So you are doing it in a RF domain, which is an analog signal. So it is called as analog beamforming. So have you guys got this concept? Okay, in 5G, I told two technologies. One is why we are moving to millimeter wave, and what are the challenges in millimeter wave. Why we brought in analog beamforming. Is it clear?
Sir, I would like to interrupt. Sir, I think they would appreciate MIMO one if you can focus on it, because they have for that. Others, I think they are not much aware of it. MIMO, they have a module in wireless. So I think if you can go with the MIMO and majorly opportunities, I think you can see our students are very impatient. So they will be more curious to know, like, mainly we focus on the opportunities, because they are not final years, we are pleased, we are awaiting. If they want to move to the core companies, only after you talk about that MIMO can help. They have that as a module. Millimeter wave and all, I'm not sure. Probably they'll be hearing about that only now. Only fewer students who are very keen. Can I have silence here? So I think they would appreciate, sir. If you don't mind, MIMO party together.
I think that is the next concept which
Yes.
we are entering. Okay. See, this analog beamforming we have done, right? What did we introduce here? Like, to actually bring in analog beamforming, we added multiple antennas. First of all, if there is one antenna, we call CISO. Now we have added 4 antennas. What is it to bring in? It is called MIMO, right? But in case of MIMO, till what point we can call MIMO? And you would be hearing about massive MIMO also. So I would say up to 4 or 8 antennas we call it as MIMO, and beyond that we call it as massive MIMO. Massive MIMO is where it calls for about I would say 32 cross 32 or 64 cross 64, like that. Okay. So MIMO, okay. We now know we need a MIMO to do analog beamforming. But what else we can do? Can we increase data rate with MIMO? Yes. They say which MIMO we can increase the data rate, right? Now let us see like how we can increase the data rate. So earlier we had this diagram. In 1 TS you can transmit only one symbol, X1. That time we had only one antenna. So with one antenna you transmitted X1, and if we have MIMO, you can have, let's say we have to take the simpler version. So I will for now take only 2 antennas, which is a 2 plus 2 MIMO. If we have 2 plus 2 MIMO, if the channel conditions are good, what we can do, we can transmit one more symbol in the other antenna. Okay, X1 and X2. Now, if we are transmitting like this, what does it mean? From the transmitter at the same time, okay, at the same time, and using the same bandwidth, we are able to transmit 2 symbols, right? Earlier I was telling only X1 we transmitted. Now we have one more dimension, that is a spatial dimension, and with that we are transmitting X2. Now your data rate doubled, correct? So here again I want to give one nice analogy here for this CDMA. Okay, basically TDMA, FDMA, and this spatial multiplexing. So you will go to some shopping mall, right? So you will try to park your car, let's say for example. What do? You would have seen so many vehicles already present there. There is one slot. If you want to use that slot, then what is the requirement? That slot should be empty, right? Okay, let's say if one car is come and parked there at some certain time, you cannot go and park at the same time. If that car goes and in some other time you can occupy the same slot. This is nothing but your TDM, that's what you are doing. You are not allowing it to collide. Now, let's say there are multiple slots. So one slot occupied by one person. Now you are going to another slot. Another slot means you are jumping into another like sub-band you can take. Okay, at the same time. Okay, one slot, one car is there. At the same time, in the other sub-band or in the other slot, another car is there. Then you can think of frequency division, multiple access. Okay. What about this one? In terms of spatial domain, you are getting the orthogonality. At the same time, using the same bandwidth. Have you seen in shopping mall happening that? Have you seen? Like in the same slot, okay, first you will go, but there will be some kind of lift or something like that. First you will go there using some hydraulic, that car will be lifted and it will be put in some higher position and the below portion becomes vacant. Now at the same time, at the bottom of that you can place one more car. So that's how this spatial multiplexing. This is in the spatial domain. You are getting the orthogonality and you are able to multiplex the two signals at the same time. So this is what is nothing but spatial multiplexing. That's how in the case of your MIMO, you are able to double the data rate. Now we got two advantages with MIMO or massive MIMO. One is you can do analog beamforming and another one is you can increase your data rate by using the concept of spatial multiplexing. Okay, three technologies are over. What are the other two? Okay, FDD. Now I will not go to that. And what is the other one? Small cells. That also I will not go. Okay, now directly we will enter into the other concept. Okay, let's get to this point. Info on wireless industry and opportunity. I don't know what you guys are expecting. You guys can ask more questions, but I will give you a brief idea like what's going on in the industry and things like that. Okay. See, in this end-to-end perspective, we have seen many modules, right? So one of the main focus area which we have taken is L1 layer. It's actually, if you see the complete, some companies are working on mobiles only. Some companies are working on this tower and core network. Okay, so Nokia is working on this tower and core network part. They have the end-to-end solution. And like that, what about Samsung? They are working on both. They are working on mobile phones also, and they are working on the core network and the base station side as well. Mainly, there will be a team who can work on the L1 layer. There will be a team who can work on L2 layer, L3 layer, like that. So, in the L1 layer, mostly electronics engineers would be hired there. But what kind of thing they will be doing? Like you know about channel estimation, you channel equalization, right? Or you know about encoder, scrambling. So all these modules we need to implement, and for that we need to come up with the algorithms, or sometimes the algorithms are already proposed and we need to implement them in the C language. Okay, so even though you are an electronics engineer, you should have a good word on C language, because ultimately whatever concepts related to signal processing, maybe sampling or maybe like performing FFT operations, channel estimation, everything you have to write in a C code. Okay, there are other ways also. Like for example, you are just doing simulations, okay, and you try to do something, then you can just use MATLAB. But you are actually implementing the code in the hardware. That hardware is will go to your mobile phone, for example, then you have to write it in a C language. So currently in your mobile phone there will be a chip which we call it as a DSP chip, and that chip will run all these algorithms, and those algorithms will be written in C language. Okay. If FPGA is used, then they will use very long language and all, RTL language. So where are the opportunities for you? So in the layer 1, you have got the opportunities to work on your electronics core subjects. One is L1 layer. Then we spoke about the RF section, right? RF section is where we are doing a power amplifier, up conversion, circulator, isolator, antennas. That portion also is worked out by many companies. One of the companies is Qualcomm. There also you are having an opportunity if you are interested to work in RF area. Okay. Then, what other information are you expecting? Any questions? See, related to some kind of patents or research, I was telling that there was a complex problem implemented by Qualcomm, right? You guys have searched in the mobile that CDMA they have implemented, but they have implemented end-to-end complete solution they have given, and that was proposed. But can we apply very simple patents? Let's say, for example, you had mobile phone, right? Earlier, so let's say you get a call. When you get a call, then what do? If you don't use your headphones or something like that, then you will place your mobile phone near your ear. Now, what was the constraint in case of mobile phone? Now also, like, what is the problem that you would face? Like, if it is having a battery problem, like for example, hey, I used just for half a day, battery drained out. Do you accept? Nowadays you don't accept that. You want it to come for about 2 days and things like that. So, since that was the main problem addressed, so many people try to apply patent there. So they try to bring in many optimized algorithms. So, for example, you will propose an algorithm. That algorithm might be taking more power or more memory or something like that. Then you will try to bring in alternate algorithm to that, so that will consume less power. If you come up with such an algorithm, that can be patented, and it can be, once it is patented, many mobile phones try to use that algorithm because they also want to reduce their power limits, and they will pay for it. So one of the problems, very interesting problem proposed and it was patented successfully was, basically you need to reduce the power. For example, you got a call. When you got a call, the moment if you are keeping your phone over here, you don't need the screen to be switched on, right? So earlier the screen was still switched on and the power was simply getting wasted. What did they do? They placed one sensor. Mostly will keep near your microphone only, will keep your phone, right? So near to that microphone there was a sensor introduced, and that sensor, at the moment the sensor is closed, your screen will get switched off, but your voice, everything will be on, but your screen will be switched off. The moment you take it out, your screen will again switch off. This idea was proposed and it was patented. It was a successful patent, and you can see in some of the mobile phones, you would be already seeing this idea. Okay, so even such a simple concept could also be patented, is what I am trying to say. It need not be like, okay, a big innovation or big idea or something like that. As simple as that. You can also, you also might be thinking so many ideas, right? Say for example, you face some problems in your mobile phone. then you say, hey, what if this could have been implemented like this? But if you think like that, try to apply for patent, who knows if there is an implementation aspect to it, it will work out very well. And do you know what was the another innovation did? Like usually people by talking or something, they will drop their mobile phone, right? This is happening very frequently. Okay. So now they've introduced some kind of pressure air or something like that. The moment the phone is falling, it will create a opposite. It will release some sort of air in the opposite direction, so that it lands very smoothly. So such a kind of ideas are also proposed to be implemented, but it might not be used in most of the mobile phones. Maybe it is becoming costly or it is becoming a little bulky or something. But moving forward, that can be optimized further so that it can be implemented in the mobile phone. Okay. Okay. With respect to with respect to concepts, what has been proved or what has been applied as a patent. I'll give one more simple example. Okay, we already spoke about that concept. What did we have? We had multiple antennas, right? So we had multiple antennas. Let's say we are using 1 gigahertz 1 gigahertz signal, and it has got a spectrum like this, and at the same time it is able to serve 2 UAs. Okay. Now, as I mentioned, if you go to higher frequency, what will happen? Your signal will become just a shorter distance it will travel. But if you apply analog beamforming, it can travel much longer distance. But this one, is it touching those 2 UVs? First of all, not touching, right? Then what is the concept that is used? You have to steer your beam. So you steer your beam like this, then it will be your 1 UV will be south, and you switch the beam to other direction, other UV is south. But what is the disadvantage here? See, here the disadvantage is that you have to steer your beam every time, and the amount of steering can vary. Okay, so earlier it was proposed that okay, you can have only this much beam and you steer it around 16 times. If you steer it 16 times, you will get to the other UV. But can we reduce it? That was the proposal, because if you steer it every time your mobile is consuming power, and every time you are checking and seeing that okay, there is no mobile here like that, and at the 16th time we will see that there is a mobile phone. Now what did they do? They told that hey, in the beginning you don't use all the antennas, you use less antenna such a way that this beam becomes little bigger, and you steer it only 3 times or 4 times, and see in that four beams whether you have a user. Whichever beam has a user, in that area only, let's say for example this beam had the user, in that area only, now you use smaller beams, and see in that bigger beam there is the actual location of the user. By that way, this 16 number came down to some 8 or something like that, 8 or 6, something like that. So what happened? Your steering numbers get reduced. So number of operations in your UV got reduced. So by that way, it was very much helpful for utilizing the power very well. So this was also patented. Okay, now you guys got the idea, right? Like how or what kind of techniques or ideas will be implemented and how that will be how we can patent. Even a smaller idea can also be patented.
Students, what you study is from books, okay? What we teach you is probably from the books. So he is someone who has industry experience, able to relate things. So, if you really appreciate, you can definitely ask for. So you don't have to have the tendency that you are placed, okay? Few of you, I'm sure, would be interested in joining some companies, okay? You can seek help, you can ask something on that at least. I'm sure he'll be able to help you.
We should be working on the core subjects which you are studying right now. What kind of information you would like to know? You can ask questions so that I can answer.